I did say in the beginning that there are two issues that were at play. It was the form in which everything happened, and there's the substance. And I do believe that what the form that evolved yesterday has done is to teach us a number of lessons. The Minister of Finance, and this happens in many countries, on dealing with tax matters, finds it very difficult to be talking too loosely about it because it leaks out into the markets, it has a negative impact. And that is what has always been the tradition. So yesterday taught us another important lesson, and which we are going to draw a lot of information from. And that is going to be a process that will lead us to say exactly how we navigate all these processes, particularly where we are, in the government of national unity, and also dealing with the challenges, as you correctly say, that we are dealing with. But what is more important that we need to focus on is the substance. The substance is what, for me, is more important. What happened yesterday will pass. It happened, and it will come to pass. We now need to buckle down and say, how do we then deal with the challenges that the country faces? I know there's a temptation for people to, be heated up, be hot under the collar and focus on the issue of yesterday, and said there was no leadership, there was no consultation. Yes, yesterday happened, it has given us a lot of lessons, but we must move on. And in moving, we cannot dwell on what has happened. We must now ask ourselves, how do we, one, draw lessons from what happened, and two, how do we then deal with the substantive issues? And this is where I want us as South Africans to focus our attention on. In dealing with yesterday, the government has not collapsed. The government of national unity has not collapsed. We're drawing a lot of lessons from what happened. Was it a process of hitting back? I do not see it as a revenge act by anyone. And if anything, it's been how a collective, if you like, a unity government should function. And we must also see what happens in other countries. In other countries, there are bun fights, major bun fights over budgetary issues. And yesterday, we had the mishap that happened. It's happened. We're drawing lessons from that. We move on. And the direction I want us to move on in is to say, how do we then deal with the substantive issues of funding our ambitions? And we've got great ambitions, and having to countenance the fact that we've got limited resources. How do we fund those? And quite often when you have to fund your ambitions, it's either you tax or you borrow. And that's how governments draw resources from their own taxation processes, or they go and borrow. And in doing so, you then have to deal with all the other ramifications that have to do with the two. So the issue that came up was the concern about the ramifications of, or the consequences of having an increase in VAT. We therefore need to pause and say, how do we then move forward in dealing with the substantive issues? So this is what I want South Africans to now do. Our level of consciousness and awareness about our national budget now needs to be heightened. What this will also help with is that we will now also begin to focus not only on the national budget, but also on the provincial budgets. and also focus on how money is used, what is deployed for, and even go further and look at our local government budgets. So I do believe that this is an important moment, and I see a bit of a silver lining with all this, that our economic maturity and consciousness will be heightened as South Africans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.